What's going on? This is Pastor Curtis coming back at you for another episode of Face to Face. I am glad you are with us, regardless of where you're at, whether you're in the classroom, at home, or waiting for your 2-year-old to get up from a nap. I'm glad you are joining us this week for another episode of Face to Face. Now, we are in week 2. Now remember, we are coming face to face with the attributes of God, wanting to enter in and wrestle through our own stories and how these attributes apply to them. And this week we're wrestling through God's beauty. And it's our joy to have with us Stephen Hess from West County joining with us. What's up, man?
Thanks, Curtis.
I'm glad
It's
you're
good
with
to
us,
be here.
man. So, man, as we dive into God's beauty, you listen to the sermon, man, what stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't even use the word beauty very often. So even the idea of talking about God's beauty is something that I don't think I've ever had really in my vocabulary for a long time. And what's just really struck me in listening to Jack, there's so many parts of his story that resonate with my own experience. Yeah. So when he talks about his time in seminary, and when he talks about even all like the book learning he had for so many years of his life, that it wasn't till really like middle age, like late 30s, early 40s, where the idea of like passion for God, beauty for God, friendship, all those terms really hit him. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times that's where I'm at. I'm kind of this sort of cerebral place. Yeah. I'm not really thinking about like, I'm not thinking about connecting with God by going out outside, going on a hike, looking at sunsets. Like that's not how I'm wired. That's not how I'm wired at all. And so it really stood out to me just why isn't that in my vocabulary? Like why don't I use that word beauty to talk about God?
That's real. And as we seek to be face to face with God, but also just face to face with ourselves and kind of enter into our own story. So just tell me a little bit more about, what specifically were you wrestling through when you looked at God's beauty?
Yeah, the way Jack talked and even opened up his sermon by just talking about how his life has been shaped by like really significant prayers. Yeah. I was really struck thinking about even the lack of prayer in my own life. Yeah. And I turned 30 this past year, and it was like this moment where like God just put a lot of like reflection in my life. Like here's a decade of life where you've kind of been on your own, able to determine things for yourself, and just having to take stock of where I'm at. Yeah. And I just realized in that moment, in the weeks around that, I just have a really shallow prayer life. Yeah. So it's been like, these years in seminary, and then this time even just trying to sort of get a job that's like within the church, that's using sort of my knowledge and understanding. And there's a lot of ways in which I've got like this master's degree in theology, but I still feel like I'm middle school when it comes to prayer. Yeah. And so that's just really a lot of what I've been wrestling with is what does it look like for this next decade of my life, and even beyond that, to flip that, where it's not just all head knowledge. It's like, God is actually really connecting with my heart, and that I can even say after a long period of time, just like Jack, that I've had this one prayer that I've been meditating on and praying each day. Yeah. And that's a big part of what I've been wrestling with.
Man, thank you for sharing your heart, and really thank you for just your transparency, because I know I relate to those words. Yeah. I know many people out there relate to that reality as well. And as you wrestle in and really look to God afresh, what led you to worship Him?
Yeah, the word that really keeps coming back to me is this word of like usefulness. I think back on so many of my own relationships, even the way I engage Scripture at time. I'm always just trying to like use God's word or even knowledge of God to like do something else. Yeah. It's like if I'm studying, if I'm looking at the Bible, it's like I'm trying to resource for someone else, or I'm trying to think about how it would teach for someone else. And when Jack talked about even the nature of friendship and sort of the pleasure of God, that like the nature of friendship isn't about like the usefulness of that relationship. Right. It's like the pleasure you get from being there. And I just have been pondering that so much over this past few days since hearing Jack's sermon of like, am I hearing from God just so I can use what he's saying for someone else? or am I actually just taking
good,
it
bro.
to
That's
like
real.
hear it for myself?
That's real.
And it just kind of flips the switch, because there's so often where the reason why I'm even sort of doing some of this stuff with these sort of mixed motives is to like please someone else or sort of gain their approval, and to have the sense that like, God doesn't need me to be useful for him.
Yeah.
Like he just wants to be with me and be present with me. And man, that thought alone has been just stirring on my mind these past few days.
Gosh, man, I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, the goal of these videos is to come face to face with God, but also face to face with ourselves. And I'm just really grateful for your words. I feel like even as you're talking, I'm coming face to face with my own story and then being led just to look to God and worship Him afresh. So I appreciate you being here and sharing your words. And really, how are you facing God? How are you entering into who God is and wrestling through your own story, so you become not just face to face with God, face to face with yourself, and then be led to worship Him afresh. So thank you for joining us with the second episode of Face to Face, and we'll see you next week.